Content warning for Trumpism-related problems and his violence, worst forms of it. Yeah, no, the worst one. If Donald J. Trump was not a neo-Nazi, we would not have named him such. We are Leslyists, we know our talks, when it comes to ideologies. To this end, we've told you time and time again Trump is a fascist, Trump is a white supremacist, Trump is a neo-Nazi terrorist. We've been telling you since the time of his first presidential nomination for the 2016 election it will not play out well. Instead of a moderate neoliberal you chose yourself. Not literally Hitler, though literally Pinochet. The sole reason I disagree with the statement that Trump is literally Hitler is how adaptive and esoteric he is. Comparing Trump to Hitler would esotericize classical Nazism, that is what neo-Nazis have been trying to do for decades now. If Trump was not a fascist, he wouldn't be. He decried the media.
We are now in the process of defeating the radical left, the Marxists, the anarchists, the agitators, the looters, indoctrinate our children in the media, who falsely and consistently label their opponents as racists, who condemn patriotic citizens. You not only slander me, you not only slander the American people, but you slander generations of heroes. You are dishonoring their great legacy and their memory by insisting that they fought for racism and they fought for oppression.
He would not have been outing Taoiseals, such as the media is the enemy of the people. Instead, he would try to promote transparency and investigative outreach. If Trump was not a neo-Nazi, he would not have saluted neo-Nazi militias during his speeches.
Right, Proud Boys, stand back and stand by, but I'll tell you what, somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left.
The Proud Boys, a well-known ultranational Sikh and white supremacist terrorist group, a conglomeration of terrorist cells. Responsible for so much physical and sexual violence, for shootings, bombings, assassinations. If Trump were not a neo-Nazi, he wouldn't have pushed for bathroom bills. He wouldn't have rolled back healthcare and other protections for transgender people, nor would he attempt to bar trans folks from serving in military. He would have brought an end to radical mistreatment of trans people in prisons. He would have continued the work to lower violence, psychological, physical, sexual, and other, against trans and gender non-conforming people. He would have commanded work on lowering neo-Nazi cells' efforts to undermine our survival as trans people. If Trump were not a white supremacist, he wouldn't have funded white supremacist groups and would not stand behind the 13 to 50 statements. He would not have accepted Charlottesville and would crack down faster on the Atomwaffen division and the base. If Trump were not anti-Semitic, he wouldn't have formed close ties with the AWD. He would not have given a helping hand to Israel in bombing the hell out of Palestinians. If Trumps were not censoring the web, the Operation Earnest Voice would have come to a halt. He would stop his attacks on journalists. He would not encourage mobs to attack them. He would do his best to guarantee the media to reach Stepanakert, to enter Mekelle, to inform the people on whatever was going on in Tripoli, Libya. He would not refrain from cooperating with the biggest news agencies, instead relying on fringe networks such as Twitter. He wouldn't have moved all the people to the right of Tito to Fox News and later to ultra-Nazi networks which were, till then, underground. If Trump was not a fascist, he wouldn't have picked himself an extremist spiritual advisor, a religious fanatic. He wouldn't have given attention to the media which tries to denounce the theories of evolution, of abiogenesis, and the sorts. If Trump was not a fascist, he wouldn't have asked the Supreme Court whether it is possible to eliminate gay partners' adoption. He wouldn't have cooperated with organizations known for their homophobia and bigotry in general. If Trump was not a racist, he wouldn't have done basically anything of which he did. naming 98% of Latin Americans murderers and cartel heads.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists. They're sending people that are got a lot of problems. We need to strengthen our borders. And they said I'm a racist. I employ so many Latinos.
Some are rapists and some are killers.
People that are from all over that are killers and rapists. You have 20 million, 30 million, nobody knows what it is. It used to be 11 million, now today I hear it's 11, but I don't think it's 11. I actually heard you probably have 30 million.
Well, who's doing the raping? Who's doing the raping?
Calling African countries specifically shitholes. Banning countries from having their citizens enter the US based on majority religion/ethnicity, corresponding to race many times. If Trump was not a violent sexist, he would not cooperate with organizations promoting an end to reproductive rights. He would not have sponsored states attempting to prohibit abortion. If Trump were not a pedophilic rapist, he wouldn't have been investigated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation for assaulting a 16-year-old, he wouldn't have been in the Epstein net, he wouldn't have gotten himself into the PY scandal. If Trump were not the worst president in the history of the United States, Antifa would not have warned you time and again about that. So many more might have been left to survive. One day Trumpists came, they came very organized. The Proud Boys carried weapons, with the Atomwaffen Division. The base, the Azov Battalion, insofar the KKK, all have probably had to do with the event. They planted bombs in the Capitol, by each site they call Cabal. They brought in ammunition, rifles, and grenades. They were to take on the entire army there. Regardless, was it used or not, it was there at hand, to be ready once they had their capital, themselves the head. They ran towards the building, Naruto ran the blue lines. A few hours passed so, a few hours of unrest, they took over the whole Senate, the Congress was all theirs. The chambers were then occupied by the neo-Nazi hordes, the Cannon Beer Hall Putsch took over the American democracy and froze it for a moment. Only time after that, did the troops arrive. Special forces, reinforcements. They didn't strike at the fascists but simply took defense. Were there the leftists putsching, it would deliver thousands dead, now only one died in engagement with the feds. Can't say we didn't warn you, huh? Minority folks of the United States again were sent to death, when the trappings of democracy all began to fail. When the sun rose the next morning, it was the 1st of May, and they all sang the Internationale,